Okay, righty ho. So, reading some comments before we start, as always. Say Les, I love Vital, but I often have issues with clicking in the attack, no matter how much I turn it up on certain sounds. Yes, what I've noticed as well is sometimes you do get clicks and pops and like random things that happen in the synth. That's why I always bounce out my basses or leads once I've made them, because you know, even if it doesn't click, you know, sometimes later on while you're in your project, it might start clicking. Like, these synths are not always perfect. And so if you bounce out the file, you know that it's good, you know that it's cemented, and you can fix the click if you need to in the file. But yeah, I always bounce out the synth patches like right away. Great bass, love it, says Digipax. Yeah, it was quite an easy one yesterday, but it is a good one. Ben Trum FX says, great video because you mentioned it. Can you show us how you sidechain your kick and bass properly? I always use Shaperbox. Yeah, man, I've done loads of sidechain videos before, but I'll try and do another one soon. I use a technique of two. I sometimes use volume sidechaining and sometimes use multi-band dynamic sidechaining. It can be both, really. Dalrotum says, very theatrical intro. Yep. I'm glad you liked it. Slurpty Dirk Big G says, Mike, another great preset from the Sound Design Master. Great to see you back. Thank you, Mike. And Peter F says, they're very true. I know a lot of other producers now do the same thing. They learned what a good kick is by making or sampling kicks, which led to the ability to pick kicks that need little processing. Personally, I've built favourite kick folders and now wonder why I picked the majority of them. Reverse engineering kicks from top artists in Kick 2 is a great way to learn what a good kick actually is. Yeah, you can do that once or twice and figure out what makes a good kick, and then hopefully that'll help your selection for the next time round. Eric Pargas TV says, underrated. Thank you. Well, let's continue with today's video, and today we're going to do a little phase plant lead. So not a bass again, like Vital yesterday video. I can't speak English today. Today we're doing a little lead, and I've already designed it. So I've basically just turned off the effects, and I'm going to turn them on again one by one and walk you through it. I can't do it completely from scratch because I was quite meticulous in getting the details right. Okay. So my main thing with making a lead is I want to have a really cool. This is kind of more a neurofunk lead, but it could be used in any kind of genre, I suppose. But anyway, my idea with the lead is creating something which has a little bit of character, a lot of movement, especially filter movement, and also like a weird funky rhythm. And again, when I go into this sound design process, what I create in the synth doesn't mean it's going to be exactly used that same way in the song. It's just I want to make it interesting enough and have enough movement so that I've got a nice big audio file that I can play with. That's how I approach it often, you know. So it doesn't have to be the perfect movement. It just has to have enough interesting movement. So with the movement of the filters, the band pass filter is one I really lean on and feel dependent on when making leads, because when you're making leads, you're using saw waves and things with a lot of high end and a lot of harsh harmonics sometimes. So you often want to like filter some of those out. So a good low pass filter or band pass filter is my favorite type of filter to use to create leads when you're using sort of a higher pitch, you know, register on your keyboard for the synth. Okay, so we're starting with simply two saw waves, detuned a bit, so it's kind of like you're starting a Reese. So one at 0, one at minus 0.39, so just a little bit. Then I'm going to add in a little bit of a sample for texture, and I've gone in here in the Alfheim Vocals Male Ooh R3, and on its own, it sounds like that. I've just toyed with the position a little bit and the amount of grains here. Okay, and then I'm gonna on the output of this, I'm gonna set it to do some FM, some frequency modulation in the saw waves. So we set the output of here to go into the phase position of this saw wave, and again we set the output to go into the phase position of this saw wave, going 12% one way and 13% the other way, kind of random, you know, but putting it back on. It's got a bit dirty. It's created this like kind of extra movement, but it's made some new harmonics, and I quite like it. It's getting a bit messy, but we've got some more content and like more detail in the sound. Essentially, this is all going to be filtered to make the main movement. So right now, I'm just putting in the ingredients in the frying pan still. You know. Next, the final sort of ingredient is a bit of white noise. And we're going to modulate the level of this a little bit later. But those are the ingredients. A little bit of a sample, some saw waves, detuned, and white noise. Now let's put a global unison on and stereo it all. Okay, so at ×4. Just detuning a little bit, spreading it about 38%, blending it about 53%. Okay, so lead, generally more of a stereo thing anyway, so I don't mind adding a fair bit of unison to everything here. So it's like, it's got the saw wave moving, it's got the weird kind of FM, like almost glitchy, distorted detail of the sample that I've frequency modulated into the saw waves and the white noise. And all of it together now, unisoned, it's starting to be a little bit softer. But now we're going to put in the main filter movement and the main shape. And we're going to use an LFO sandwich technique that I coined that term, which is basically where we're going to use 2 LFOs to create a bit of a random movement, okay? So the first thing we do is add on a filter. You could use the normal filter, but I've gone for the non-linear one because it has sometimes more interesting colors. So the saturated mode, the Q is up just over 1, leaving the cutoff quite low to begin with, and then we're going to modulate this on the filter to go up quite a lot. Okay, so we're going to turn on the LFO to start the modulation. Okay, so that's doing this is the LFO1, this is our main movement. And I've just drawn it here, it's a ramp down, but I've just tweaked it a bit to give it a bit of a kind of attack. And I've moved the phase position around here a little bit, okay? Now what we're going to do is add in the second LFO to give the more complex movement. So if I turn this one on here. Okay, so now I've got a bit more of a funky rhythm going on. And basically, what we have on this LFO here is a pyramid. It's just kind of like a triangle, and I've basically just curved it a little bit, and it looks the other way around because the phase position, I've toyed with that as well. So I've made it minus 180, and when you have this second LFO to give the first one extra movement, simply go to the output here and set it to the phase position of the first one, and then I will typically spin it all the way around so it's 100% on the modulation amounts, and then now this LFO is going to be modulating the position of this one. So you can see the circle, how it's skipping around because the second LFO is constantly changing the position of the first LFO, where along the cycle we are. Okay, and just by toying with the phase positions then, you can just create your own rhythm with the phase position and also with the speed. Obviously, the speed of each one will change it all. So I've just settled on 4/16 here and 8/16 here. And that's given me this rhythm. And I quite like that movement, so I'm just going to stick with that and leave it as that. Okay, and that's all the LFOs done. And then any extra movement or any extra modulation I want to do within any of the other effects or anything like that, or the noise here, for example, I'm boosting up the noise a little bit in line with the movement. Any of this stuff is going to go into into LFO1 movement, yeah? Because this one is only, the second LFO is just doing putting in the randomness into LFO1, but all of the parameters will be tracked to the first LFO still. So it's all going to follow that. Okay, so just enhancing the sound with a bit of distortion. Overdrive, a little bit of detail in the tail, so we're going to give a little bit of delay. Just a dual delay, about 70 milliseconds, and a little bit on the mix. and that opens up a little bit on the LFO. So as the sound opens up, we get a little splash of extra delay. Okay, it's quite subtle, but it gives a little detail to the tail of the lead. And then a bit more shaping the tone. We're going to do another filter. This time's a notch filter, and this one is going to just get a bit more neuro funky, because notch filters give you that neuro funk sound, especially when you go for the mid range. So we're sort of around 400 hertz, and that just gives it a bit more shaping, makes it a bit darker. And so again, we're just modulating that one on the LFO1 here. And then we have a little bit of reverb. Again, anytime you use reverb in the synth, you typically have the mix on or off, you know, unless you create like a separate you can do like a snap heap kind of multi effect in phase plant, so you can mix it in, you know, nicely. But generally in synthesis, with it, whether it's in your serums or your vitals or anything, if it's a reverb where it's just mix off or on, you know, any reverb you use, you're going to lose power of the sound, you know. So I never go too heavy on reverb within the synth. You can always add it on afterwards, and we're going to add on reverb in post-processing as well in a minute. But when you reverb in the synth, always use it sparingly, because I always see students like whack up the reverb, and then I can hear their sound is just not very powerful anymore. So you can always add reverb after, but you can never undo it, you know. So in your synthesis process, don't over reverb stuff, because you can't go back. But here, like 5% or whatever, it's not too bad. Okay, so just a little tiny tight convolution reverb on that one, and then finishing it off with another distortion, just a different color to the first one to give it a bit more like slightly different harmonics. That's the patch almost done. I just wanted to put a bit more realism into the whole loop, so I did like a slow up and down LFO, and I just tweaked a couple of parameters. We've got the cutoff on the first main filter, so it will sort of open up a little bit more, get a little bit brighter, and then come back down again as the lead is playing out. And then here on the notch filter, that's also going to change the shape a little bit up and down, and the start position on the sample, which obviously has a little bit of an impact on the tone of everything as well. That's also moving a little bit on this one here. So if I take that off, put it back on, it's the same sound, but now there's a bit more realism in it. Okay? Because obviously these first LFOs, the first one here is doing that main, you know, the main movement. But as that's sort of repeating, I want the whole thing to change a little bit as well. Yeah, so that's the point of this one. That's the funky lead created here, which I'm quite happy with. And then what you can go ahead and do, like I said with the reverb, you can add another reverb layer on top here, you know. So all you have to do is, once you're happy with your sound, bounce it out, slap on your favorite reverb. I put on a convolver, found a nice preset that works with it. And then taking out the low end, this is the important part. Really, really make sure you take out loads of the low end, you know, between 500 and 1,000 somewhere usually. Find a nice balance around there. Turn it down in the mix as well. And now we've got both together. Nice controllable reverb on a separate layer, a separate channel. And with this main one as well, when I've designed the lead, it has got quite a lot of bass in it, you know, and I can always take that out with an EQ afterwards. But it just sounded better, like when I was distorting it and adding in the effects and everything with that sort of rumbly bass inside the lead. It made it sound more full and complete. So I didn't want to like EQ out the bass yet. You know, I want to save that for like only when I have to take out the bass of the lead, you know, because it was all adding to the timbre and the tone of it, leaving the sort of bass part in, you know. So I've left all the bass in the lead. So when you look on the EQ, like it's got a lot of bass in it, like all this rumbly. You can hear it's a bit like rumbly nonsense, but it was sort of all adding to the character. But realistically, in a song, if I'm going to use the lead with the bass, I'm going to have to take this out at some point, okay? But so I'm going to do it here in the post. So nice little low cut there, about 100 hertz or so, and then another one here, like a little bit more, taking like a bit more fine tuning the low end. And then I can add in a bass underneath. This is the one from yesterday, the Vital one. And with our reverb, then we've got the lead, a nice controlled reverb. The lead has obviously been EQ'd to take the low end out, and then we can add in our Vital bass from yesterday. So we've got 3 nice juicy layers that work well together from yesterday's and today's video. So I hope that was helpful for you guys today. So thank you a lot for watching, my Gs. This Sunday, I'm doing my next group class. It's already almost booked out. I always have 10 slots available. As I record this video, there are 8 people have booked in. So there are currently still 2 slots left. If anyone wants to join us, we're doing a class on the art of layering. I've prepared a whole class on going really in depth with what it means to layer your sound properly, how to make even the most minimal tracks sound massive, and yeah, always go in a little bit more detail and more in depth in the group classes than I do on the public YouTube videos. So definitely worth a little look if you're interested. Links down below. You can book in one of those 2 slots and come and join the rest of us as I teach us on Sunday evening this week. At 9 PM CET, that's 8 PM if you're in the UK this Sunday. And if it's already booked out by then and you don't make it, we'll do another one I typically do one every 5 or 6 weeks or so. And yes, tomorrow we will do a little mini layering tutorial on YouTube though. Something I wanted to just share, like a little mini tip tomorrow. So I will see you guys then. Have a great day. Peace out. Ciao, ciao.